Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the MyFootballWriter podcast. It's episode 8. Can you believe that already? Time really is flying by. So much so that the 2 weeks without our good friend Jack have gone and they are done. He's finally back. Look at him. He's in the wonderful shirt of the 1920 season. He's dancing away for our Spotify listeners who obviously can't watch the actual video on YouTube. But along with him, of course, I'm also joined by Will Grant and Henry Miller. I'm Freddie Humphrey Wakefield, if you didn't know that already. But boys, as you always should do with everyone, quick catch up to begin things as we usually do. How has everyone's week been? Or for Jack, how are the last weeks been for you?
Well, I suppose I ought to explain where I've been. On a personal note, I got married. I'm like a proper old man now. I know. It was a beautiful ceremony. Craig and I had a great day. We were debating as to whether he should take my name. He was saying, Shakespeare, it's such a lovely name. But I thought, no, Smith is a much more traditional name. But I call that a 1-0 to me. And, after all, that is my favourite thing in the world. So, but no, seriously, no, I've been in proper wedding mode, not football mode at all. I haven't even watched any football at all in 2 weeks. So did England win in the end? Did they? Or did they not? Did they not? No. I'm obviously kidding. I watched it and that was devastating. Obviously, you guys all chatted about it. I'm not going to go into too much detail on it, but oh, Henry, your mate Southgate, eh?
It made me cry. I can't lie. I bawled my heart out the following day just thinking about it. I just wanted us to do it so much, not only for the team and the redemption for 4 years ago, but also for Southgate himself, because I think everyone knew it was the last dance for him. But I was going to say at least we reached the final, but it's not good enough now, is it, really? We needed to win.
Yeah, and I've just woken up from Friday. It wasn't a really great game on Friday, was it? But I'm all good. How are you, Freddie?
Yeah, no, I'm not too bad. Yesterday had a bit of a weird illness come upon me, but that seems to have disappeared because I've just got a fantastic immune system. No, I'm kidding. But no, I have no idea what happened with that. But apart from that, yeah, not too bad. Girlfriend bought me the away kit, which was lovely. I thought, oh, brilliant. I can come on the podcast. I can wear it. I can show it off to the viewers. And then I get told, oh, no, you can't yet. That's a present for Wednesday. You got to leave it now. You can't wear that and reveal it. So no, I just have to wear this Umbro and Carling collab T-shirt because it's the first thing I pulled out of the wardrobe. So it's not exactly an apt replacement, but is what it is. But in a footballing sense, again, Friday wasn't great. That wasn't overly good. I mean, I didn't watch it live because I didn't buy the Canary's TV £5 package thing. So I went about ways of watching it, I'll say, to keep myself out of trouble. So I rewatched it, and we'll get onto that a bit later as to what the key talking points there was. But straight away from that game, you can't really ignore the Bratwurst that was put out during the game. And no, I'm not talking hot dogs with currywurst on top of it. You could say he got his Huang Zhou out if you're going to use a Norwich analogy. I don't think the bloke was ever kicked out of the ground. I don't think he was asked to leave. But then again, he's German. He's probably not going to understand rural Norfolk English, asking him to leave the ground. But yeah, so nothing like a bit of indecent exposure in pre-season. Anyone else got anything to add about our Madeburg mates getting the Huang Zhou out?
Well, firstly, how he didn't get kicked out is beyond me. Like, if anyone did that in the home end, they'd have been gone straight away. But it does say what you need to know about the game when the highlight is a man getting his Roger Johnson out. But also, right, as well, what is going on in pre-season? It's not just Norwich. Did you see that Jason Malumbi scrap
Yeah.
from? That was absolutely ridiculous. There must be something in the water this pre-season, I'm telling you, because
And
Champions
Jason Bean as
teams
well.
just love weird stuff happening in their meaningless games.
Yeah, no, and as Will said, there was James McLean and I believe Levi Colwell of Chelsea. They pretty much were having a scrap in an American pre-season game. That actually reminds me as well. Chelsea last night lost 4-1 to Celtic. So maybe they don't need Adam Eder, but no, we're going to leave him out this week. I've had enough about.
You sure?
Adam Eder. Yes,
Just
I am sure.
One more week.
Yes.
One more week.
Yeah,
I didn't dedicate the entire hour actually just on Adam Eder.
Yeah. You know what? If he scores a hat trick on the opening day, I'm more than happy to do that for the first podcast after. I'm more than happy to do a 1 hour Adam Eder special where we talk about his great moments in the Norwich shirt. But anyway, no, that's
before he sold to Celtic for £3 million, of course.
Yes, yes, no, exactly, yeah. But no, well, anyway, another sort of funny pre-season. Palace played Crawley yesterday in Crawley, actually not too far away from where I am. Did you see Joachim Andersen, who's meant to be one of the best on-the-ball centre-halves, apparently, in the Premier League? Yeah, he wasn't very good on the ball that time. He got the ball off the keeper, right on the edge of the 6-yard box, took a touch, stacked it like his will on a Saturday after a few too many. And then in comes the Crawley player, tap in, but Crawley did lose 6-3 in the end. So a nice consolation goal, if you will. But anyway, back to Norwich and anything concerning the Norwich world. Let's talk about that new kit actually. Or me and Will of course did a sort of midweek pointers video. If you haven't watched that on the YouTube channel already, you can check that out in our video list. But Henry of Jack, of course, I want to hear your thoughts about that kit because me and Will have already spoken about it. A lovely black t-shirt, yellow on the collar and sleeve, and it looks like someone's got a paintbrush and just splattered it with yellow. But it's been done very well by Joma. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's perfect. I think it works so well. It's one of the nicest kits we've had in years. And with those paint splodge kits, they're always 50-50 in my opinion. You can either get them horribly right or horribly wrong. And Norwich have definitely pulled something out of the hat because I think the away kit looks absolutely stunning.
Yeah, I mean, with a kind of black and yellow kit, it's always a bit of a dangerous ground as to how Dortmund you go, because that's always that they're partial to a black kit. My first thought that it looks like someone has sneezed on it. Maybe that was. Does it not give a bit sneezy? I don't know. Maybe that's my hay fever talking, but I think it's okay. It's not exceptional. It doesn't make me jump out of my seat and think I want that like the Red Cabbage did last season. But obviously the third kit is yet to come, and from rumours that I'm hearing, it's apparently supposed to be pretty. But again, we'll wait and see. But no, is it just me that thinks it's sneezy?
No, I can see where you're coming from. Now that I can obviously, well, I've got it, but I'm not allowed to look at it just yet. But I know exactly what you mean with
just open it. Just don't tell her. It's fine.
No, I can't. No, I can't because it will be far too obvious if I open it because I'm just going to rip it apart. I'm not just going to do it neatly and stuff like that. I'm going to be so desperate that I'm just going to rip it apart. There'll be paper all over the floor and it'll just be too much of a mess.
Well, at least before our next podcast, we can look forward to a MyFootballWriter unboxing the kit video.
Put the anniversary dinner on hold. All right, just while I'm going to open presents, let me get out my camera. All right, MyFootballWriter, here's me opening the shirt. Do it.
You know what's fun? It's actually on the day as well. It's on Wednesday for anyone who cares. But on that same day in the morning is my university graduation. So I'll be in my university robes. No, Forget that. Whip that off. Norwich shirt on. Here you go. Look at the badge. It's yellow and black. Look at the shirt. Oh, it's yellow and black. Look at the name on. No name on the back just yet. No one's been good enough. No, not just yet. Although I'm full of praise for the players in pre-season. We'll get onto that again in a second on who everyone has been impressed by. You know what, actually, let's just do it now while it's fresh in the head. Obviously, myself and Will again in that midweek video, Nodge Spotlight. I hope you two like the name of that. You know, I'm sure. You know, don't want to talk about how long we spent trying to decide that, but we'll leave that out. Yeah, Jack and Henry. In terms of pre-season, don't know how much of it you've been able to watch because Henry, I know you were at the Northampton game in person. But what have you two both thought on that in terms of who's been showing up so far in yellow and green, and who's been impressing you mainly? Who are the names you want to see probably get into that starting 11 for Oxford in 2 weeks? Because it is coming up very soon.
Yeah, so I think for me, like I said, the last couple of weeks, Brad Hills has been sensational, I think, in the pre-seasons, and he's definitely earned the right to start against Oxford, or if not start, at least be in contention and banging on the door to start. And I think Montoya as well at left back has been really good and has to start the opening game of the season. And although I've said we could maybe do with letting him go, I think our best player this pre-season so far from an attacking viewpoint has been Jonathan Rowe. So I think him starting against Oxford at the minute is a no-brainer. I think Kamara's been off it. So, yeah, for me, Jonathan Rowe has been the highlight and the standout. And if he stays fit and Norwich do keep hold of him, he could be a crucial player for us this season.
Well, I was going to say Hills and Montoya, so you've ruined it. But no, I think it is very easy to, look at youth players who come into the first team and do pretty well, and then just think, oh my God, like they're the best things in sliced bread. We're going to, completely romp the league. Like Brad Hills is the reincarnation of, I was going to say John Otsemabor, maybe John Terry. But yeah, I mean, I think in defensive positions, I think I've always sort of, you look back into last season when we had Duffy, Hanley and Gibson as just really old men that are kind of, their knees are dwindling. And then you're kind of thinking, good Lord, where are we going to go from here? Obviously, Tompkinson, Warner had their little sort of forays into the first team, and then you're kind of thinking, well, they're probably miles off it. But yeah, from what I've seen from little Brad, is he definitely that kid from the Kit video from 13-14 with Snodgrass and Johnson? Is that definitely him?
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, well, I only say that because I said it on last week's podcast. Well, his dad follows me on Twitter. Not to sound like Mr. Popular or whatever, but there is actually. I was looking through his tweets because there wasn't all that many, but literally one of them was Brad Hills in that full kit on the set of the kit reveal. So it is most definitely him, and I've got that from a very reliable source, unless somehow some magic has been pulled off and they did a last minute swap or something like that. But that is to be believed that it was the one and only, well, as you're calling him, little Brad Hills, although he's not that little. I'm not sure how tall he is, but no, he's an absolute giant, that boy. But when you touched on there about centre backs and how we had the old men of last season and some of the youngsters, that's the point. Actually, against Magdeburg on Friday, 6 different centre backs ended up getting minutes in that game. The only one who named of the entire squad on that day who didn't play was Emmanuel Adegboyega. So we could have even seen 7 different centre halves come on for a game. Now I know it's pre-season, but that sounds ludicrous to have that many centre halves just come on the pitch and end up playing. But who knows who the starting 2 may be? Of course, Cordoba came on for his first outing, didn't play too many minutes, which I wasn't too happy about. But then again, he's not really been in many training sessions and whatnot. You probably have to limit his minutes anyway. But I just really want to see the Panamanian Devil. And I want merchandise put out at some point, although I'm not sure our budget stretches that far. But unless Henry's got a nice heat press to put on some white T-shirts, maybe of our...
The Panamanian Devil and the Scottish Beefcake against Oxford United. Clean sheet incoming.
The Scottish Beefcake.
Context? Like, what has Grant got to do with beefcakes?
He's just an absolute unit, though, isn't he? He is a beefcake. So, the Panamanian Devil, the Scottish Beefcake. We need nicknames like this for all of our players.
Oh God! Oh, we'll have to get to the drawing board on that one. But anyway, going back to the main sort of talking points of the week. Norwich, of course, have got a new set piece coach in Nick Stanley from Brighton and Hove Albion, and Jack, straight away there, you winced a little bit there because, as me and Will discussed in midweek, his statistics of last season, they're not that great. But then again, Brighton did have the shortest team on average in the Premier League, so you don't expect them to score from corners. But you would like to think a set piece coach would work ways around that to score some goals from set pieces. I mean, it is his job at the end of the day to make that happen. But clearly, Jack, you're not too excited about that appointment based off your initial reaction.
Well, I think when the fans of the previous club pile in and just completely rip you to shreds, it's a very good sign. Very good sign indeed. But on the flip side, we've signed a set piece coach from an established Premier League club, so clearly he has some pedigree behind him. Again, with a Scottish Beefcake, or whatever he was called, a beef something, with a big Panamanian Devil, with big Brad Hills. We've got some, stocky lads in the squad. I mean, obviously, set pieces last season were very good and very effective. The number of interesting corner routines that we had that actually paid off. But yeah, I mean, is he any better than Alan Russell? Oh, we'll have to just wait and find out. No, Will's mind is made up.
No. Alan Russell, I think his 2-game cameo at Norwich, for me, I look back at that tenure very, 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 very fondly. So I'm definitely a firm believer in Alan Russell's set piece qualities, and even, I mean, he invented the love train at that notorious World Cup in 2018. So I'm all for Alan Russell, and I'm going to stick by Alan Russell. So no one comes close. No one comes close.
Football heritage.
Yeah, that's certainly one way of putting it. But anyway, Henry, your thoughts on the new set piece at Norwich City? Of course, Norwich ended up actually being one of the best teams from set pieces last season. I think we were either second or third highest with, I want to say it was 16 or 17 goals scored from set pieces.
18.
Or 18 even. There you go. So it's a very impressive record. And bringing in this coach, will that still be a similarity, or are we destined for failure whenever we get a corner and everyone in the river end starts standing up, and then they got to slowly just sit back down as it's cleared away, and Bristol go on the counter attack with, what's their strike, Gardner Hickman or whatever his name is, although I'm pretty sure he's at West Brom now, so I've probably got that wrong. But as soon as Bristol go on the counter and they start singing about tractors as they go 1-0 up at Carrow Road.
Yeah, I think for the set piece coach, the new set piece coach, it's definitely 6 of one and half dozen of the other. As Jack mentioned, the fact that we've signed him from an experienced Premier League club, but not just that, a club who have experienced success in Europe as well, getting to the Europa League. I think that is something we should look on and go, okay, this could be quite a big coup here. But on the other side of the argument, we've all seen the Brighton fans saying, thank you for taking him off us because he's awful, which does leave a sour taste. So, yeah, it does remain to be seen. And his record at Brighton in terms of how many goals they scored from set pieces, albeit in a harder league, is still slightly concerning. So it's one of those where we're going to have to definitely give it time to see how it plays out. But at the minute, I just sort of like, it's a shrug of the shoulders, really, isn't it? It's just like, yeah, cool, whatever. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. No, that's probably the perfect way of putting it. Excuse me. No, it definitely is. Yeah, because there's nothing else really that you can decipher from it so far. Like, it's still pre-season. There's not, he's not had much to do. He's only just joined the backroom staff and what have you. So as you say, that you can't. There's of course the two sides of the argument as well of not the best record, but signed from a Premier League club. So you have to just wait and see how that goes and see what you do on corners and free kicks. Just as long as I believe Henry said the last week, as long as Sarra and Nunez are still very good at free kicks, then it's completely fine. We can all relax and take our time. Well, that's if they both end up staying at the club, but that's another matter for discussion in a few minutes. Because going back to Magdeburg, as we already sort of have said, it wasn't the best performance, and the highlight, you all know what it is. You've all seen the tweet, so we'll stay quiet for now. But from actually when I watched it back, there was a few things that sort of stood out to me really, that I thought about just straight away. I noticed sort of for the last 40 minutes or so, Sarra, who we've just been speaking about, he seemed to sort of be deployed as a false nine really. Now Norwich is still yet to see too much of Adamida in pre-season. He wasn't actually included in the squad on Friday due to a knock. Sargent is still yet to be seen. Ashley Barnes has just had surgery, so he's not going to be seen for the next few weeks. So could that be the key, really? Could it be that we're not going to, we probably can't afford to sign another striker unless we bring back that mighty Korean on loan again or something like that. But could that be the answer? Could it be Sarra deployed as a false nine, coming in deep and trying to play it to the wingers maybe of Signs and Rowe to get the goals? Or do you think that shouldn't be what Torup looks to do, and maybe are Norwich in need of another striker?
Yeah, I'm almost certain that I think Norwich need to try and get the Adamida or the Standout situation resolved. I think it's quite worrying that we're 2 weeks away from the new season and there's still no sign of Sargent, and obviously the rumours around Ida are just going to be there, aren't they, as well? So that isn't very encouraging. In regards to Sarra, actually, I thought Sarra was probably one of our best players on Friday. Obviously, you touched on there, Freddie, how he was used more advanced during the second half, but I actually thought Sarra was actually really good in the tight spaces, in deep areas as well. On Friday night, looked really calm and assured on the ball, and definitely gave us a connection between defence and attack. He is so important to the way we play, and I think he's definitely one player who I would definitely do not want to lose. But obviously, with our financial situation, Norwich can't really pick and choose who we want to kind of sell. So it's going to be quite a big blow if we lose Sarra, because I don't know about you guys, but I know it's still pre-season and you can't get carried away with like the results and stuff like that. But during that Madeburg game, I only counted probably about 20 for 20 minutes. We looked like really good. I haven't really seen like a full performance yet against a good opposition where I thought, well, okay, like we're going into Oxford in really good shape. So yes, I'm a bit worried about that overall, but I think Sarra overall this preseason has looked really good. So excited to see how he can kind of blossom under Thorup, and that's if he stays as well. So hopefully he does. But yeah, I think we need to see a bit more convincing performances before the new season.
Yeah, what baffles me is obviously the club have sort of said that Norwich heading in a bold new direction, and this is a new era under Johannes Torup. Playing a false nine with Sarra almost feels Wagner-esque for me. It feels like you could have stuck a youth team striker in there. I'm not sure what's happening with Kennebeau. I'm not sure if he's injured or not, but that would have been perfect for him to fill that gap and have that youth come through, something that Thorup is prioritising this season. So to not see Kennebeau in that position and us going with a false nine instead just seems like a backward step, and it seems quite contradictory, to be honest, from Johannes Torup. But no, I think in terms of going into the Oxford game, it will either be Eder or Sargent to start. But again, I'm really concerned with Sargent starting because I think there is an argument there that he did tail off a bit after his injury last season. And then the fact that we've not seen him at all in pre-season, there's definitely question marks surrounding him. So, yeah, we've not necessarily set up in a good shape. And, yeah, it remains to be seen whether or not that will hinder us against Oxford. But something else I did want to mention is Borja Sainz for that goal. What was he doing? Those keepy-ups were awful. Like, I guess it's a good thing that he's done that in pre-season because I'm sure he'll never do that again in the actual regular season where the games mean stuff. But yeah, what was he thinking doing keepy-ups on the edge of his own penalty area?
Yeah.
Bananas. But I mean, playing Sarah as a false nine, you know, it's a genius tactical move. Make him play as a striker, make him play terribly. So all those clubs that wanted to sign him in midfield are just confused, and you know they just want to steer clear of him until he plays in midfield and you know plays everyone else off the park. It's yeah, genius, absolute genius. But no, if he's our starting striker against Oxford, I might be a little bit worried. I swear against Magdeburg they started Sainz, Kamara and Rowe, but Rowe as a striker who I don't think in his entire career has played as a striker. Will can quote me on that if he ever did it for the youth team. Kamara definitely was a central attacker to start with, and then has obviously gone to Portsmouth and been very good out wide. Whether he will be a starting striker, that's a question mark to be had. Obviously, that would be a little bit worrying considering how well he's done out wide. It'd be like the opposite of what Dean Smith did to Josh Sargent. Like, oh, you're a right winger, it's fine. You can do it. Like, I believe in you. He was the least winger I've ever seen. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to mention the Irish striker who went to Scotland last season because we're obviously not meant to talk about him. If he stays, I don't think we need another striker option. But you know, obviously, if he is sold, if he goes for a large fee, we probably won't be able to afford to buy a replacement. We'll probably loan someone in. If we can get a loan to buy, then that seems like a logical solution. But yeah, I mean, whether Sargent will be fit for the start of the season or not, we just don't know. He might turn up at Oxford and score 4, and then all of this talk is just, you know, irrelevant. But yeah, he definitely needs some minutes in pre-season. I think not seeing him at all is quite worrying.
No, it is. Of course, he picked up a slight injury before the Copa America, but ended up going anyway. And then I think he only played about 10 minutes at maximum there. So it is concerning that he's not played at all. And of course, under a new manager in a new system as well, you want the whole of pre-season to learn what you're going to be doing. You want to know what the manager expects of you, and to just be chucked in straight away at the deep end in a league game where you haven't played for so long. You have no sharpness. You have no tactical familiarity with what you're going to be doing all season. It is very concerning, of course, for a player of Sargent's caliber as well. Of course, we know he's fantastic when fit. That is a bit of an issue with him as well. He's had quite a few injury concerns while being at Norwich. That's only really the bad thing about him in the last few seasons anyway. But you talked about Kamara as well. I thought really this pre-season, he's been off the pace for me. He's not looked that player that, of course, there was so much hype surrounding him with how well he did at Portsmouth and how we all want to keep hold of him because there's evidently a very good talent there. Everyone saw it last season with Portsmouth, who won the league, and he was still a standout performer of a team that was probably everyone was excellent every single week. But he just hasn't looked that sort of player, whether that's he's been utilised as a centre forward or he's been played out wide. It just hasn't seemed to have worked for him. But of course, it's going to take time for him to develop. It will take time for him to become familiar, as it will with any player who's young and coming into this team, but for me, he hasn't looked that great. I mean, I don't know if the three of you share sort of familiar thoughts with that really, and if you think that this could be one that maybe isn't going to work out as well as some fans would have hoped. But then again, yeah, he's still a very young player who his development is still very much, that needs to be something which is taken care of still, because he's only really played one full season of first team football, albeit very well in League One. But does he maybe need another loan move potentially, or is this one we just have to be patient on and hope that he comes good in the sort of later on in the season maybe?
What I will say, I'm going to pose a question to you guys as well. Do you think that is why we're all ranting and raving about Brad Hills? Because if you look at them, yes, Brad Hills was playing a division lower than what Abu Kamara was last season, but they both had very similar seasons. Brad Hills briefly captained Accrington Stanley in League Two, and to do that at such a young age shows how much of a talent he is. He's come into this Norwich team pre-season and taken like a duck to water, but because nobody expected it, everyone is now going like he's like the second coming of Jesus, basically, at centre back. Whereas Abu Kamara, because he had that hype and because he was in a League One winning team, everyone's expecting him to come in, score goals and hit the ground running for Norwich. I'm just saying, is it a case of managing expectations with Abu Kamara and going, well, actually, he did it for Portsmouth, that's great, but he's never had an opportunity at a club really as big as Norwich to show what he can do and at championship level. So, you know, from a Norwich perspective, should we maybe give more time to Abu Kamara, do you think? Or are we fair to criticise him? Because I agree with Freddie. I think he's been off the pace this pre-season, but is it fair to just judge him on that? Or, yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to criticise him because obviously he hasn't been up to standard to what he was at Portsmouth. But I remember last season as well, I think Kamara went through quite a rough patch at Portsmouth and nothing was like clicking for him. And the manager Mousinho gave him a lot of time to develop. And in my opinion, I think we're in a similar situation right now as a club where I'm not really expecting us to go up this season. I think right now we're looking a bit under par before the new season anyway. So I think it's a good opportunity to try and better him in. Obviously, Rowe being here is going to affect that, obviously, because they're both playing the same role. So I think the thing with Kamara, it's so I think there's so many kind of aspects to it because obviously I think Kamara wants to play regularly as well, and he'll think that he's good enough for them for this level as well. So it'd be interesting to see kind of where he does end up. I'm hoping this at Norwich, but I think with Kamara, I felt really bad for him against Madeburg because, as Jack said actually previously, Rowe did actually play as a striker in his youth career. He played as a front two about 2 years ago, and I kind of expected it when I saw the lineup to be Rowe as a striker and Kamara as the inverted right winger, but obviously he went the other way. So look, I was very surprised to see that. I think you've got to give Kamara time, but I don't know if Far Up sees it that way. But he's definitely a player that I would look to give time and a run of games because actually you've seen under a good manager who wants to give youth time in Mousinho, Far Up can do the same as well with Kamara. But I know it's a big level above, but I'm confident that he can hit the heights of last season because he's a superb talent. But it's just very interesting to see what Far Up kind of use the situation because you can't be going into the season with him as a striker because actually during the game you saw a lot of him trying to like hold up the ball, and that is not his game whatsoever. His game is running at defenders and trying to create angles for himself to score or create an assist. So it's very interesting to see how that situation pans out. But I'm all for giving him time, but it could be quite tricky if Rowe stays.
I think this is a classic pre-season fan wobbly. I think he's played a few games. He's been, average, subpar, but who are going to be the starting wingers against Oxford? It's probably, if he stays, Rowe and Signs. So if Signs is dropped for Kamara, that's obviously a huge statement. If Rowe is on the bench in favour of Kamara, that's an even bigger statement. But pre-season is obviously all about fitness. It's all about trying different tactics. Obviously, against Madeburg, Torp tried something and it didn't work. So, you'd go back to the drawing board, scrumple that bit of paper and throw it against the window. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a long season for him. Same with Rowe last season. He obviously hadn't played any first team football at all, and then scores a worldie against Hull. It could transpire that on the opening game of the season, Kamara plays and he has a 10 out of 10 game. I think, it's just a case of reading into pre-season too much. And it is, I've touched on this before, it's fan expectations. I think, even I said it earlier, we want our youth players to be incredible talents and amazing and brilliant. But sometimes, sometimes they're just not that. And sometimes we just need to give them time and patience and not overthink some pre-season games. That's just my opinion.
And yeah, to also bounce off that point, I think not necessarily in their own mindsets, but in like the fans' perspective, then Brad Hills and Abu Kamara are the two most fragile players in this entire Norwich City team. Because if Abu Kamara continues to play how he is, he'll turn into a scapegoat. And the fact that Brad Hills has played so well, let's make no mistake about it, he's still probably going to be either our third or fourth choice centre-back. So if he has to come in and he drops a stinker, instantly Norwich fans will make him a scapegoat as well. So it is really difficult because obviously pre-season is the time where you want to see how these players perform. But realistically, if Kamara doesn't start against Oxford, I don't think anybody would be too surprised. And the fact that we've spent so much money on Cordoba and Grant Hanley's back fit and Shane Duffy has got a lot of minutes in pre-season, I don't think anyone would be surprised if Brad Hills doesn't start against Oxford either. So, yeah, like what I was saying, managing expectations is needed, but I just hope that these two youngsters who clearly are, sensational talents aren't scapegoated by Norwich City fans this season because, for me, it looks like if there is going to be a scapegoat this campaign, it will definitely be a youngster, unfortunately.
I'm going to throw a curveball. Imagine if you're Christian Fassnacht. How are you feeling in this situation where, you've got Jonathan Rowe, who will start, is the best winger, and then you've got this new kid who's just sort of swanned in, a player who's played at the highest level in Switzerland, who's played European football, and is now our third choice winger alongside Onel Hernandez. Surely he should be thinking, oh, well, I'm going to start as well. So all of a sudden we've got huge, competition in those places. I really like Fassi. He played really well at times last season. Frederick.
No, I'm not having that.
Mate, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, but I'm not having it. I think Fassnacht shouldn't expect to start because he's not been good enough. I don't think he is good enough whatsoever. Don't get me wrong. He some lovely. Sorry, Henry, to interrupt you, but he had some lovely improvised finishes and scored scored a few goals. All credit to him. He can evidently be a good player who has got a high pedigree of playing, as you've said. But this is going back to Henry's point of making players scapegoats because of expectations. I think this is a key example, really, of Fassnacht, albeit I still strongly believe I don't think he's good enough to start. I don't think he's a winger either. He hasn't got the pace. He hasn't got the build of a winger. For me, I think he'd be better off suited as a midfielder. I don't think he's a winger whatsoever. I can't see as to how this bloke was ever seen as a winger in his career. I mean, albeit he probably destroyed the Swiss league, but I think any of us four could probably go to the Swiss league and be a decent player. But I don't know. I'm probably going a bit too mental with this, but I don't think Fassnacht should expect to start. In fact, I wouldn't be too upset to see him sold because I can't really see how he's going to fit into this team. And with the lack, and he's barely played in pre-season. He was off in Switzerland with his mate on a boat rowing down streams in Switzerland. So it's clear to see where his head is at, maybe with pre-season, as opposed to where you would like to think it would be if he wants to start. He should be going into pre-season under a new manager and impressing the new manager, not going row your boat merrily down the Switzerland stream. He should be in the team and performing and putting the grafting in training. I mean, to quote a very famous Stupid Barry, I don't know what's going on in training. I want to know what doing on training pitch during week. But anyway, that's getting a bit too besides the point. But Henry, sorry I interrupted you, mate. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say the thing is with Fassnacht, he now has a really good opportunity to give Torup like a headache in terms of his team selection. If, like Jack said, Fassnacht is sitting there thinking, look, we've got this kid coming through, did really well at Portsmouth last season, helped them, cruise to the League One title really. And we've got Jonathan Rowe and Gabby Sarah and Hossains, who still have nothing yet that looks even close to a move away, and it looks like they are going to be here. I need to up my performance levels because I haven't been good enough. And with Fassnacht, I stand by it. When that first block of, I think it was 4 or 5 games last season, I thought he came in and was absolutely brilliant. And then when we played Leicester at home, and we lost, I think it was 2-0 in the end, 2 or 1-0. Ever since that game, he became a passenger, in my opinion. But in terms of the scapegoat point, I wouldn't say Fassnacht has ever been scapegoated by Norwich City fans, because we've looked at him and gone, okay, yeah, he's an average player at best. Normally, the scapegoats are players who you expect more of. Say, for example, Adam Eder before his Celtic loan, because he was one of our own. Norwich fans instantly expect him to hit the ground running at Championship level, which, was something he probably didn't do. Last season was his best goal scoring season for Norwich, and there were still calls that that he should be dropped and that he wasn't good enough. Then you have players like Stephen Naismith, who, albeit wasn't great at Norwich, but we signed him for big money. He scored a hat-trick the season we signed him for Everton against Chelsea, right? Who didn't have a good season, but they won the Premier League the season before that. And he was a name to football fans. So again, he was scapegoated because of that heightened expectation. Then you also have players like Josh Murphy, who in his last season was the scapegoat. Again, it's a player who Norwich fans sort of think about subconsciously more than other people, because either they've come through the youth academy or they've got a high fee attached to them. Someone like Fassnacht, I think, is lucky to have escaped from that, because people, he hasn't had that high fee really attached to him, to be honest. And also, he's not a homegrown player. So people look at him, have gone, okay, yeah, he's a little bit like average. Like, if he plays, he plays. If he doesn't, he doesn't. That's fine. But he's sort of escaped that. And that's why I really worry that people could scapegoat someone like Kamara or Hills, because they are one of our own. It would follow exactly the same pattern as the previous players who have been scapegoated the previous 5 or 6 seasons.
I mean, I also think a thing to note as well, I think it's Kamara's last year of his contract as well. So he wants to see a pathway as well. And I think, obviously, Forup and Napa stated that they want to kind of rejuvenate the pathway again. And I think trying to persist with Kamara, I know the main priority is to get results, but I think one of the longer term processes I think that Napa wants to introduce is to try and showcase a pathway and to try and give young players opportunities. And I know we kind of talk back about Kamara again, but I think it's quite an interesting plot in the Fassnacht case study as well, because I think I don't see him play much minutes this season unless like Rowe and Kamara both get injured, for example. So I think it's going to be very interesting. In terms of Fassnacht, I think as well I think he's a player which is got some okay stock in the bank right now, because he scored a few goals off a few corners and tap-in. So I'm not really a big fan of Fassnacht whatsoever. I think obviously he's there at the right time. He can come alive in the penalty box at times, but I think overall his general play is way too slow for the Championship. I think he gets lost in games way too much. And I just don't think. I think he's got the quality for the level, but I just think in terms of physicality-wise, in terms of speed, etc., I just don't think he can hack it.
Yeah, and last question quickly on this point before we move on. I'm going to pose this to you, Freddie. You said that you don't really see Fassnacht as a winger and you see him more as a traditional centre mid. I think personally, if Fassnacht plays as a number 6, we get really overrun in midfield. We don't really play with number 8s. And in number 10, it'd be far less effective than both Gabriel Sara and Ashley Barnes, as I think behind the striker is Barnes' best position probably. So if you were Torup and you did decide to go with Christian Fassnacht, where would you play him? Because I think for him, the only place that he'll be able to knock on the door is probably on one of the wings.
Bench. Sorry.
I was waiting for that.
No, you see, well, my good friend Henry, I would actually play him as a 10. I would play him in behind the striker. I think that with the attacking mindset, which he would already have from playing in an attacking position already throughout the majority of his career, and knowing when to play the ball into the striker at the right time, of course, being in a wide position, you're used to crossing it in maybe or drilling it low into the area. But I think surely he would have that sort. You can tell at times, well, you said them first 5 games are very impressive. He did show signs of being quite an intricate player. I remember against Millwall for the Ashley Barnes goal to make it 3-0 at the time. There was a lovely, nice little flick on he did when Stacey played it into his path and he backheeled it back to him. So I think he's definitely got those capabilities to play those smart, intricate passes and play in those nice moves to try and create space and work room for a striker in front of him maybe, or if a winger comes and inverts, that he can play it into their path. So I think I would actually argue that Fassnacht would probably be better off as a number 10, albeit, as you already said, we have players who are effective in those areas already. But again, what does Johannes Torup think in terms of where he's going to play them? Will that, I know that in his sort of tactical setup, he only plays with 2 actual midfielders in the centre and he pushes another one forward with the wingers and the striker, and the midfielder almost plays as sort of like a second striker almost, just off the shoulder of the other one. So maybe that could be something we see of a midfielder who is, you would assume, playing as a number 10, and they more rather become a bit more of a centre forward just behind like a natural striker maybe. But that's where I would actually play Fassnacht in a midfield role, because I think he actually has got some capabilities which could make him very good at that. But again, I'm not the manager. None of us are. We don't know what's gonna happen and where all those players will be played. But as Will, albeit he was joking about knocking on the door of the subs bench, that is probably where Fassnacht's going to be for the majority of this season. But anyway, moving on from the Swiss roll on the right hand side, we'll be moving on to another player on the right hand side actually, and going back to Magdeburg game and tactical setups and what have you. I thought Jack Stacey actually had quite a quiet one. I didn't see him doing his trademark overlapping runs and bombing forward as much, which I think actually really was, well, it hindered us really. I thought with only Rowe doing the attacking business on the right hand side, you can already see how big of a player Jack Stacey will probably be in this new system. And we saw it in the first few games, especially against Northampton. I thought from the bits I watched, and probably what all 3 of you watched, I thought that he really looked like he was properly enjoying himself and was having a proper good time on the right-hand side, making those bombing runs forward, because that's ultimately what he's known for. That's what, even under Wagner, he was doing that, and he's going to continue to do it. But I think he's really going to be this key part of this system. And it's evident that without his bombing runs forward, we are very lacklustre in attack under this system, it seems to me, albeit it's pre-season. But that already looks like a sign to me that he's got to be one of the first names on the team sheet, really.
Yeah. So you got Henry, sorry, mate.
Sorry, I think sort of Stacey is a bit similar to Kenny McLean in the fact that you know that they're never going to drop below a 7 out of 10. whatever game they play, they've always been really consistent. And I think even last season, like Jack Stacey was one of our most consistent players throughout the entirety of the campaign. And, you know, he was probably unlucky not to get more mentions about the Barry Butler Trophy, to be brutally honest, because, yeah, he was, like I said, didn't really drop below a 7 out of 10 for any game last season. So yeah, he's definitely going to be crucial, and I expect loads of goals to be coming from that right hand side this campaign as well.
Yeah, I mean, just one thing that I wanted to add as well, to make it more surprising, actually, I noticed that Nunes, McLean, and Sarah, they were at times they were all come back as a like a midfield, free midfield, and we're normally associated with like two midfielders which kind of stay back and help with the build up. But I noticed at times that all three of them came back deeper as well, which kind of makes it even more interesting that Stacey wasn't like bumming on or much. Yeah, he wasn't going more forward to what he's kind of used to. So yeah, that was very interesting to see as well. But just touching the Madeburg game, I know it was quite a poor game overall, but I was actually really impressed with like the ball speed. I thought the first 20 minutes we were actually really, really good. Obviously, we had to create more chances, but I thought the first 20 minutes we were like really, really good on the ball, really quick with our movements and passes. So that's really encouraging to see.
He'd better not take the number 3 shirt again. He definitely is, isn't he? Like, just take number 2. Like, just don't do a Steve Morrison and have 5 or something silly like that. Just, yeah. I mean, yeah, like Henry said last season, he was really consistent, really, you know, top quality, and also pretty injury free, I seem to recall, because obviously Kellen Fisher was the sort of main you know, substitute option, and apart from a few games during that kind of rocky October November time, I think Stacey pretty much started every game. But yeah, again, a quality English fullback. Maybe we could sign one on loan on the other side. Wasn't that supposed to be done like 2 weeks ago? What's happening? What's going on? I'm getting nervous. Why is Doyle not here? Where is he?
Basically, he's still out on the USA tour with Manchester City. So clearly, Guardiola is keen on this kid, and he wants to continue developing him and getting him pre-season minutes. But on the flip side of that, if he is going to still come to Norwich, and this happens after their tour is over, that doesn't end until a week before Norwich's season starts, and he will have no familiarity whatsoever with how Norwich are going to play. And well, Montoya will probably be the starting left back against Oxford, but if he isn't, and Doyle comes in and then plays as the third centre half, which we've been seeing quite a bit under a tore-up system, he'll have barely any idea what the manager wants out of him, because he's not had to experience it for all the weeks of pre-season. And then Norwich even actually went to try and get a loan deal for Hugo Bueno for Wolves, and Wolves rejected that. So we were keen to bring him in on loan. So clearly, even the club are quite worried about this, because their search for a left-back continues, although after the Magdeburg game, in an interview for the Pink, and Torup did sort of tease about new signings coming through the door when Paddy Davitt asked him about how he said a set-piece coach was coming soon about a week before, and then a couple of days later, along came a new set-piece coach. So Torup said, well, maybe I should say the same about players, but Callum Doyle's still out in America, and he's going to be there for at least another week. So it can't be him, surely, because he's still out there and trying to impress Guardiola. But as you say, Jack, you know, I did a whole video about Callum Doyle, what to expect, and here we go. He's going to join soon, and it aged like milk. But we'll have to wait and see, really, because it could be him, it could be someone else. Norwich is still active in that market, but the concern, I agree with you, it does continue to build. Like, what genuinely is going on? Is Doyle going to become a Norwich player, or are we going to see someone else come in who's on a long list of targets where Napper and Torup are just crossing names off, and you know they've got a little star next to Doyle's name, but then they've got to keep crossing names off underneath that. But genuinely, yeah, what's going on? No one knows. That's the problem. But who knows? That could be someone else.
I think it's sort of similar to what you were saying, really. I think Montoya will definitely start against Oxford, but if we haven't got an announcement that Doyle's transfer by that Oxford game, I don't think he'll start regardless. But that's when the concern will grow in, and that's when any signings we bring in will feel like a panic signing, to be honest, because Doyle's clearly the number one target. Something I do want to bring up was Jack mentioned him briefly a minute ago, is Callum Fisher. He said after the Magdeburg game that he doesn't really know where his best position is. Now, he's been playing right back in pre-season. He's been playing centre mid in pre-season. Do we even go down the Gareth Southgate route and play someone who's probably more equipped to be a right back at left back? Because I think Callum Fisher's been one of, again, another outstanding player for us in pre-season. And do we go and try and squeeze him in that left back position if we've not really got any cover there come Oxford, or do we just let him bide his time and make good cameos off the bench and hopefully fight his way into the team from there?
Yeah, I think kind of Fisher, I worry about him defensively in that left-hand side. I think he's much better suited centrally, because I think he's shown really good cameos of linking with the play and the defenders and the midfielders centrally as that right centre midfielder, especially against Bruges. I thought he was excellent at doing that, and I think he could definitely be Stacey's deputy. And yeah, I think Fisher has had a very good pre-season as well. I think he has a lot to our play, especially in the midfield and defensively in build-up. I think Fisher's probably first game of the season will probably be in the cup game against Stevenage, and I think wherever he plays in that on that team sheet will kind of dictate where he plays for the rest of the season, really. I know Freddie touched on Hugo Bueno. I actually watched quite a lot of him during his academy days, as Notch and Wolves used to play each other loads of times about 2 years ago, and he was actually a prominent name on the left-hand side. And I was quite surprised to see this streamer, actually, because he's actually a fullback who was very attacking minded and is very likes to play out wide. So I was quite surprised. I don't know if he could actually perform the inverted role. So I was quite surprised to see that rumour emerge. Albeit he's a good player as well. I think Celtic were actually looking at him as well. So that's quite an interesting subplot as well. But yeah, I think with the left back, I think obviously how Baptiste is actually on Friday. I think if it gets announced before the Hoffenheim pre-season game, I think he'll probably play in the last pre-season friendly, and then he'll play against Oxford as well. So I still think there'll be a new player in the first team squad before Doyle come Oxford away. So hopefully that is the case, and hopefully we get someone good.
No, yeah, we'll have to wait and see and hope. But one last thing before we go on to the returning quickfire hot takes, which I'm sure everyone's been looking forward to. Jack's even raising his eyebrow like he's Dwayne Johnson, just that singular left eyebrow going up. There you go. But now, of course, with MyFootballWriter, we're also a website. We always leave a link in the descriptions to all of our other platforms. But this morning, Gary Gowers, who pretty much runs a website and is our main man to make sure we're always on track, he put out an article this morning titled "The Hoff Honeymoon is Over." So I'd just like to get all of your thoughts on that, as of course pre-season is coming to an end. And do you think that is the case? Do you think the excitement around Johannes Hoff Torup is now dying down, as maybe to be expected after the initial excitement and sort of some lackluster performances, you could say, in pre-season, but you can't always take it for face value? But do you think really that, yes, this honeymoon period is over and we should start to become a bit more realistic in terms of how we look at games and performances under his short tenure so far?
No, not at all for me. Not at all. I think if you look at the pre-season games, obviously I don't know the figures of how many people weren't at the game who watched the game, like either by on a club stream or through other devices, like you said, Freddie. But if you look at the people actually in attendance, it was only the Barclays stand and the South stand that were open. for the pre-season game. So not many people would have actually exposed themselves to Torup. So come the first home game of the season against Blackburn, I think the first league game of the season, that's when the honeymoon period for Torup will take place, in my opinion. So yeah, it's those sort of first 4 or 5 games that will be his honeymoon period at home, and if those results don't go well, then the honeymoon period would be over. Then you get to October, November time, where if we're still on a bad run of form, that's when questions will start to be asked. And then December, January, February could be quite toxic if it doesn't go well. But I think those first 5 home games will probably be the honeymoon period. I don't think it's fair to say that pre-season is that for a new manager who's not really been experienced with English football.
I'm still really excited about the Forup appointment. I think there's still many interesting things to come from the manager, but I do get the point that Gary's trying to make, actually, because it feels like the Madeburg game, there's still so many questions that need to be answered. I mean, you talk about the left back, you talk about as you did like a new striker perhaps as well. There's so many questions like linked with the squad right now, and uncertainties as well. I mean, Norwich actually still need to probably sell a player to get more bodies in the team as well. So I think the biggest topic right now, it was like during when Forup was announced, it was all about him, all about his new regime. But I think now the biggest question and the biggest topic, like around the fan base, is, are we actually prepared for the new season? And I don't think we are. I mean, I touched on earlier in the pod how I would like to have seen more progression than what I've seen right now in terms of going into the new season. I think the Madeburg game we only saw probably 20 minutes of really, really good attacking and proactive play. I just think in the next 2 preseason friendlies, I want to see a bit more sustained pressure on the opposition's goal, as well as just trying to apply our processes more coherently, because I feel like right now it could be a bit messy opening games of the season. So I'm all for giving him time, and I'm all for the mindset of, look, we might have to kind of take like a few heavy blows during the season. I know we've got a few hard games, and we've got to go to Coventry away as well. Sheffield United at home as well, who have got some really good players in right now as well. So I think this Forup style will probably go long into the season, actually, and we're just going to have to try and wait for it all to click into gear. I quite easily see a very, very hectic deadline day this year. I could probably see us trying to scramble for new signings come deadline day, because I think the Rowe, Ida, Sarasaga is going to go right to deadline day. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting few weeks ahead.
Can't wait to re-sign Danny Barth on a 1-year deal on deadline day. But no, in terms of the honeymoon, I think what fans will look for and what they will want is an improvement on the previous regime. Obviously, the very weirdly sort of negative at times football, but also the kind of, I don't know how to describe it, as not mentally weak, but sort of, the amount of points that we would lose from winning positions, the inability to compose oneself in games. That was, one of the main traits of the Wagner era, was just kind of, just confusingly weird and boring at times, but exciting at times. I think, exciting, passing, flowing, beautiful football, again, is what we're used to. It's what we like. And I think if, we fill the team with lots of youth products, there's obviously going to be an element of giving them patience and giving them time, but not too much, because we don't give too much patience. But I think it's very easy to, again, look at pre-season and panic. It'll be fine. Everything will be fine. Trust me. And if it's not, I'm going to have a great season.
Well, I'll screen record that, and I'll use that against you if it goes wrong. I'll do what you do to people on you. I'll make sure that I keep that, and I'll keep that in the back of my mind for when we get to October and November, and we'll see where we are. But from long-winded questions to quick-fire ones. Well, Jack's back, and it wouldn't be a podcast with Jack without quick-fire questions. So he's had 2 long weeks to think about some. I don't know if he's got any more than the usual 10 because it's been a couple of weeks. But anyway, Jack, you can take centre stage, take the floor with it. What have you got lined up? Because it's been too long. It's been far too long.
Just quickly, I thought of one whilst doing this podcast. So can I?
I'll go on.
Go on then.
Right. Better in number 10, Christian Fassnacht, Liz Truss.
Now, we do not talk about politics.
I had to. I couldn't have missed that opportunity.
You know, to actually answer it, well, I've only ever seen Liz Truss in the number 10, so I have to go with Lizzie, don't I?
You've got back homegrown talent, so I'm going to go Liz Truss.
Fassy, just because I'm sure he'd outlast a lettuce. So I've obviously been very busy over the last 2 weeks doing lots of other stuff. But I thought to myself, 10 questions each time is a lot because, you know, I'll run out of good content. So I'm only doing 5 this time, and I'll continue doing 5 just to keep it fresh, and just to keep it quick and quick fire. Right. First, who was the worst Weber signing?
Where do you even start? Oh my God.
Quick.
Marley Watkins.
Marley Watkins.
I think Zolis.
Ooh, yeah. Prime Ruddy or Prime Krull?
Prime Krull.
Prime Krull.
Prime Ruddy.
Have a large financial takeover and appoint Dean Smith on a 10-year contract, or Delia regains her majority for 10 years?
Dean Smith and takeover.
Dean Smith and takeover, I think.
Dean Smith and takeover.
10 more years, Deanie Smith. Who's the biggest star, Hugh Jackman or Ed Sheeran?
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman, 100%.
Thank you. And finally, just a little silly non-Norwich related one. Best football film?
Green Street.
Mike Bassett, England manager.
Oh, I don't watch much football films. Oh crap, I'm in the mud here. Can I do like a little series?
No.
Oh, I don't know if I've watched an actual proper football film of my recollection.
Have you not watched Goal?
No.
What?
Oh, come on.
Not like Beckham either.
No, I haven't watched any football film. You put me in the mud here.
Right, Will, there's this thing called Netflix. You can buy it, and it's got lots of films on it. I recommend this afternoon you go away and do some homework and watch Mike Bassett, England manager. Have you not watched Mike Bassett, England manager?
No.
He's the Norwich manager to start with, not to spoil the film.
I didn't know that.
That's shocking from you. That is shocking.
No,
But
let
can
him
I
have
give you a
his
TV series in the spirit?
All right, TV series, go on.
Okay, so Jamie Johnson made my childhood. You don't get fair enough.
No.
No, I'm old, you see.
Jamie Johnson was CBBC every Thursday night or whatever. It was my childhood.
Bless. Oh, well, that's your 5. That was very quick fire. I'll come up with some better ones next week.
Yeah, well, and then once the season starts, I can't wait to see what you'll have lined up then. My God, that's getting into dangerous territory, really. But anyway, there's your lot. This has probably been the longest one we've ever done. So hopefully you didn't get bored and click off halfway through, or just skip to this bit. Don't, because I can see your average duration watch time. I'll know. But anyway, no, I'm not going to stalk anyone like that. That's unfair. But anyway, there you go. There is your weekly instalment of the MyFootballWriter podcast. The 8th episode is done and dusted, and we'll be back next week to have even more nonsense. Hopefully, we can all make it, and the 4 of us are here once again. I'd like to think so anyway, but that'll be a week closer to the season. There'll be some more pre-season games to talk about, and maybe get carried away again or get a bit too upset, and we all worry and we're all in just a state of not knowing what to do with ourselves once the season does actually begin. But anyway, I've been Freddie Humphrey Wakefield, and they have been the excellent Will Grant, Henry Miller, and Jack Wright, a newly wedded Jack Wright, as he pounds the badge on his chest and wiggles his wedding ring at us. So anyway, there you go. We will see you this time next week. No, that's not a euphemism. Stop laughing, Jack. Stop laughing. No, we've already spoken about the Huang and Roger Johnson. We'll leave that out for the foreseeable future. But anyway, there you have it. There's your weekly news and nonsense, and we'll see you again this time next week. It's goodbye for now, and see you all for the next one.